a real pleasure to be here today and talk to the community. Hearing the opening remarks yesterday from Nick and all the other talks has really got us thinking. I really like Tom's talk that just preceded mine. He's made all the points that I would have loved to make in my presentation, and I could not agree with any more with what he's already said. But I want to talk a little bit about programmable test infrastructure in an environment that's going to be dominated by programmable infrastructure, right? So if we want to talk about network test and testing of infrastructure so far, the focus was always on testing in a lab, right? Testing like a black box, testing these big boxes, isolating them, blasting a ton of traffic to them, and seeing how they performed. The focus was on test tools, right? The actual configuration, the network design, and the operations, essentially day one and day two of the life cycle, were completely ignored. Tom talked about that a bit as well, that we need to take those things into account from day zero. What was also ignored was the test infrastructure, right? Test infrastructure is how the end users, the engineers, glue the test tools together to create their test beds, right? Test infrastructure is hardware or software, can be on-prem, can be in the cloud, is your Jenkins config, is your GitHub's action, whatever, right? Our view is that the test infrastructure is as important as the test tools, whether they are traffic generators, protocol analyzers, or whatever, right? And we in the test industry and working along with the community need to think about that from day one, right? It is not something that can come later. We need to pay attention to that at the very beginning of the project. There's a lot of ecosystems in our industry, right? Ecosystems where we are all partnering with each other for the next set of innovations, but also competing for the next customers, right? These ecosystems are all unique, right? We've worked with many of these ecosystems, and our view is that we need to work with the ecosystem's view of the world, meet them where they are. So the needs of an ecosystem like OPI are fundamentally different from the needs of an ecosystem like Sonic, right? There's different use cases and so on and so forth. And it is up to the test tool vendors like us to make sure that what we are offering is in line with what the community needs, what the community wants. It's not enough for us to just give our test tool to the community and leave the stitching of it together to create the test bed to the community later on. We are got to be first-class citizens in these communities, full-fledged partners, kind of like Tom said, from day one, and we're happy to do that. And we've done that in the last few years. And I want to give one concrete example of how we've put that philosophy in action, right? A use case. We were working with a partner. The partner was a developer of smart NICs, right? And they were about to embark on building their system test setup, right? The kind where you procure a lot of servers, some network switches, cables, and so on, and build an essentially system test setup. And this is all nice, right? They were going to build a very, very, very small replica of a data center. And immediately we recognized, working with them, that it was going to be a pain for them to build it, to maintain it, to operate it, and so on and so forth. And so we saw an opportunity. We saw an opportunity to work with them to take away some of their pain. And what we did is we worked with them to take a real network switch, the exact same one that they were using in their setup, and we programmed it like a data center. Essentially, we gave them a data center in the box. And because this was using the same ASIC that their switches were going to use, they got the exact same behavior that they would have gotten from their mini setup. But we took away a lot of their pain, right, of maintenance. Now, this is typically not what a test tool vendor, right? We're thinking of traffic generators and so on and so forth. And I think the call here for us in the industry is to work with the community to think beyond just the test tool, right? We worked with this vendor, with this partner, and we gave them this capability. And we put some additional capabilities on top of it, right? Capabilities like generating traffic, generating congestion, link failures, the ability to test QoS and ECMP behaviors in this network, and so on and so forth. And that is just one example of what we've done. We, on top of that, worked with them in keeping with our API first philosophy that I think Mark yesterday was talking about as well, and put a vendor neutral, vendor agnostic, model driven open API to this box that we built, right? This is available on GitHub. We are working with others on it. And the idea is that it is not something that is specific to one vendor. Other compliant implementations can take the place, right? Either in day 0 or further in day 1 and day 2, right? So this is what allows them to rapidly experiment with different configurations, try things out, and put it in practice, right? Put it in production. We have some other communities as well. We are really happy to be part of OPI. We're ready to collaborate with all the stakeholders here in building the networks of tomorrow, building and operating the networks of tomorrow. And so I just want to conclude with that and say we'll be your partners here from day 0.